Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guests are two of the entertainment world's favorite leading men, John Gallagher Jr. and Stark Sands. You know them together from American Idiot and separately, John from Spring Awakening, Long Day's Journey into Night, and Jerusalem, and Stark from Journey's End, Kinky Boots, and To Kill a Mockingbird, and both of them from numerous TV and film roles. Well, now they are both starring at Berkeley Rep in Swept-Away, the new musical inspired by and featuring the music of the Avett Brothers, which features a book by John Logan and is directed by Michael Mayer. Swept-Away has been extended for the second and final time now through March 6th. Please say hello to my friends, John Gallagher Jr. and Stark Sands.
Hello.
Hello there. My gosh, like I said, your life just passed in front of you with all these credits that you've all done, like together and separately. Now, welcome to the internet world, because I know you're sort of staying at the Berkeley dorm somewhere. So first of all, how are you guys and where are you? So John, I'll start with you.
We're doing really well. We're in Berkeley, California, in the East Bay, outside of San Francisco, just a few blocks away from the Berkeley Repertory Theater, where we're premiering this new show. And we're all kind of hunkered down, where the whole cast is staying in the same spot. And, it's strange because we can't really go anywhere or really do anything. There hasn't been much sightseeing because of the COVID era in which we're living, but we're getting to premiere a brand new piece of American theater. So it's, we're lucky. We're pinching ourselves.
I love it. Stark, for you, are you guys on the same floor?
No, we're not. We got randomly assigned rooms, and I'm on the 7th floor.
I'm on the 4th.
It has been strange because I heard so much about Berkeley from John and Michael and all of my American Idiot friends. I joined American Idiot on Broadway, didn't get to go didn't do the Berkeley Rep run. And we haven't been able to really explore it because we have to be so careful. So we're getting through it, and I'm grateful to have my friend John here and all my new friends from this show. So it's a nice place to be. I can't complain about the weather.
Wow, that looks like a postcard.
I know. So that's at least we can be outside. And I know New York is not. You can't say the same for New York right now.
Stark has such a better view than I do. My room looks out into an alley.
I was going to say it's like in a hotel where someone's like, wow, I have a view of the Eiffel Tower. And someone's like, oh, I have the view of the air conditioning vents.
Sorry, John.
I want to ask you guys, have you been able to put the past 2 years or so into some kind of perspective? Any of you can start on this.
I think certainly. I mean, we all have said, I mean, this is kind of a morbid and dire kind of upside to reference, but I think all of us have felt that we started this show in 2018, 2019. We started doing readings and workshops, and we all loved it. We all thought it was fantastic, and we all signed on. And then, we were sidelined by the pandemic. We were supposed to premiere this in the 2020 summer season at Berkeley Rep, but we got pushed to where we are now. And I think on that first day of rehearsal, when we all came back and we started reading the script for the first time, it wasn't that any of it had been altered or rewritten or changed, but there was a kind of richness and a deepness to a lot of the issues that are touched on, the kind of human quality issues of this piece: mortality, luck, being lost, trying to find your way home, all of these things that I think that we are all just feeling a little bit stronger, being up against what we've been up against in the last few years. So I think, and certainly just the gratitude to walk into a rehearsal room. I'll never take it for granted again. I will never take for granted just being able to be in a small space with like-minded friends and collaborators who are equally curious and getting the chance to work on a new play. It's something that I, didn't realize would ever be taken away from us in the last few years the way that it has. So I think the deepening of the piece and the deepening of the gratitude that I feel has been huge for me.
Beautiful. Stark, for you.
I second everything that John has said. And for me, being away from home, I've done it before. I've taken shows out of town on their way in to New York. And, obviously we're hopeful for that kind of trajectory at some point. but I haven't done it as a husband and a parent. And so I have really been, my focus has been on my family for the past few years. And so I didn't try as hard to like find work. You know, we got by, and I banked that time with my small kids. And so the fact that this show is about missing your loved ones and, you know, being away from home and all of those things are very easily within reach for me. You know, adding to what John said before. So, and it's not just me as the performer doing it, it's the people in the audience, like whether they realize it or not, they have been through the last few years. And the themes of our show, which was written and conceived long before there was ever a pandemic or we even thought about that, so resonant that it's really surprising people and it's kind of punching them in the gut. And it's really satisfying to be in a theater, whether you're on our side of things or in the audience for that.
Well, I want to congratulate both of you on the wonderful reviews for Swept Away. I mean, I've been reading everything. I've been looking at all the little clips and everything. I cannot wait to see this musical. I mean, and you guys have turned me on to the Avett Brothers because, you know, I'm like, you know, Mr. Broadway. So it's all original cast albums and soundtracks. And I was like, I love their music. So, you know, how did you each become a part of this musical? John, I'll start with you.
Yeah, in the summer of 2017, I ran into Michael Mayer, my old friend and close collaborator, at a film premiere, and I was unemployed, so I was doing what I often do when I'm unemployed, which is to not go to the barber for as long as I can. And so I had like a shaggy beard and long hair. And, you know, my understanding of it is that Michael had been talking with Sean Huddock and Matthew Maston, our two lead producers, who had been, it was their idea to try and conceive some kind of show with the Avett Brothers music. And he said, oh, you know, I ran into Johnny Gallagher the other night, and he's like, he's got this beard now and this long hair. I feel like he'd be really right for this Avett thing, you know. And there was no script. John Logan had just signed on to write the book, but he hadn't written anything yet. And I went out with the producers, and they said, we're working on this Avett Brothers musical with Michael. He thinks maybe you might want to do it. And I said, well, I love Michael. I love the Avett Brothers. I don't even need to read the script. I'll, you know, sign me up. And that was about a year before I even saw any of the book. So I've been, you know, kind of loosely attached to this thing for about 5 years or so. And then, you know, then I read the script that John wrote, and it's outstanding. It's up there with one of the best books of a musical that I've certainly ever read. And that was how I affirmed my status in Swept Away.
Well, you have the look for it. So Michael was like, oh, he looks just like a brother. So it's like, we should just cast it.
Right. Exactly.
Stark, how did you get involved?
So my first introduction to the Avett Brothers as you know, as a fan, was through my friend John. Back during American Idiot, John had a record player down in his dressing room and always had music playing. And one day this band was playing, and I said, who's this? And he said, oh, you've got to get into these guys. They're fantastic. That was 2010. So I became a fan back then. And then in the summer of 2019, Michael Mayer reached out to me. I had worked with John Logan on a pilot years ago. And so I knew him as well, and they invited me to do this 2-week workshop lab thing. And it went well, and they offered me the gig back then, thinking that we would be doing this in the summer of 2020 here in Berkeley. And of course that got pushed a few times, and now we're here now. So I'm grateful to, again, just, you know, work seems to beget work. And for me, it's a real testament to just sort of being professional, doing your job. And you know, the more you do that, the more reliable you prove yourself to be, and people seem to come back.
Yeah. Now, John, you turned Michael Mayer on to them originally, didn't you?
It's true. I was a big Avett Brothers fan going all the way back to the Spring Awakening days. And, you know, I had a T-shirt that, it doesn't fit me anymore, but I had an Avett Brothers T-shirt that I used to wear or rather, I don't fit into it anymore, is what I should actually say. But I was a big Avett Brothers fan, and I kept telling Michael, like, I was like, these guys are great songwriters. Like, they just write this, the complexity the emotion that they convey in their lyricism is just amazing, and I think you'll love them. And then I kind of wore him down, and I had an Avett Brothers poster in my dressing room, and he was like, God, I got to listen to these guys. And then he got into them, and I think then he became a big fan. So it's not like everybody, like, my phone rang a couple times when the press release went out for this, and friends of mine were calling me being like, did you like bribe people to do this musical? Did you like bribe Stark and Michael to doing this Avett Brothers musicals? No, I just got really lucky. I'd been a fan of theirs, and I always loved turning people on to their music. And it's just one of those strange full circle moments that here we all are working on a new musical featuring the songs of Scott and Seth Avett. It's a total gift.
Going back to Michael, I've known Michael for many, many years. I always thought, oh, he's like me, original cast albums and soundtracks. And then I was like, he directs all these musicals with all these, like, Steven and Duncan and, the Avett Brothers. And I'm like, Green Day. And I'm like, wow, that's a whole other side to Michael. Since you both worked with Michael, what makes him one of the most sought after directors? John, Go start. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. My something that I have always loved about Michael is his honesty and his lack of a filter. So it's and I'm not going like, speaking out of school to say this, but Michael will regularly say "ew" in a rehearsal room if he doesn't like something, and you learn very quickly not to take it personally. It's just that he has a visceral response to things. And my mantra when I'm working with him is, Michael, always trust Michael. Michael's always right. He has the best taste. He has a strong opinion, and that's what you need as a director.
Yeah, I love it. You should have a shirt made with that, or a coffee cup with what he says, right? John, for you, what makes him
I think Michael possesses two of the absolute most important qualities that you can have when you're developing a new piece of theater. Is that he is unbelievably smart. He's one of the smartest people that I know, intensely intellectual and intelligent. But he has no problem throwing all of that aside to totally embrace his inner child. He's childlike, and that blend of kind of like a childlike wonderment and this intensely laser focused adult intelligence. It's the best of both worlds. To have that in the rehearsal room, you just can't go wrong with him. He and nothing gets by him. He really does have this incredible eye for the stage. I mean, there's a reason why he's able to premiere something like the Avett Brothers and then get on a plane and go right back to New York to start working on Funny Girl. Who else can kind of straddle that tonal area the way that Michael can? He's just incredible.
Yeah. And then there's John Logan. I fell in love with John with his off-Broadway plays. I mean, before he became famous, and I was like, who is John Logan? And I mean, besides being one of the nicest guys in the world, I mean, let's just talk about his book that he wrote for this.
It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I feel that if you kind of culled the songs from it and you just took, the book and put it up on stage as its own thing, you would have an incredible play. Because he has written this new original book for these songs in a way that doesn't make it feel like a jukebox musical, even though we're taking pre-existing songs from a band's repertoire and we're fitting them into a narrative structure. It always feels earned and warranted. It never feels like, and here's the next number that you've all been waiting for. It has like very, very organic. And, we've all sat around in the dressing room talking about how it really is an actor's show. It's like an actor's dream. It's just the four of us and this incredible language that he has gifted us. I mean, it feels like, I know that John says that Herman Melville and Joseph Conrad were like his two main influences when he was writing this book. And it really shows, because there is this no holds barred kind of mythic, epic quality to what he's written that makes it feel like you're working on a great American classic, even though it's a brand new piece.
Yeah. Stark, for you.
John, he is the craftsman of this piece. John was approached by our producers about, hey, do you think there's an album in this? Do you think there's a musical in this one Avett Brothers album called Mignonette? He went back to them and said, yes, but I would like to use the entire catalog. I would like access to the whole Avett Brothers catalog, which they granted him. John went and spent months listening to every song, making notes, coming up with ideas for characters, and he, by himself, created this story. And it's such a testament to his ability as a craftsman, as a storyteller, that you wouldn't know that. There are people who are not Avett Brothers fans, who are theater fans, who are coming to see this. They have no idea that this wasn't written all as one piece, all by a team that worked together for a long time to make this. So, and the other thing that I would say is it's an incredibly spare script. The book is so short, really. And to achieve what he has with the minimal amount of dialogue and that sort of part of the storytelling is really, it's a huge achievement.
See, I've read all the reviews and all the pieces already and seen little pieces, video pieces that are up there. I thought they wrote new music for this because when you read the reviews, they're like, oh my gosh, this is like the perfect musical with their music and John's book, this story that they tell.
Yeah. And it's not like American Idiot, where it was literally that album told start to finish with a few little extras. This is just, he grabbed and pieced it together in a way that it's seamless.
Okay, now talk about who you each play.
John?
Well, I play, it's kind of interesting because, hopefully this isn't giving anything away, but none of the characters, the names are never revealed. I play a character called the Mate. Because he's the second mate on a whaling ship that is shipping out of New Bedford, Massachusetts in 1888. He's a tough character. He's a con man. He's a completely kind of hardened, crusted over lost soul, driven entirely by his ego and his own survival. No compassion or care for those around him at all. Really a selfish, tough, hardened, wounded person who is really just out for himself, and then finds himself in dire straits throughout the course of the show and kind of forced into a reckoning he wasn't planning on having for himself.
I want to add charming to what John just said, because all of those things are there, but you like this guy right off the bat. And it becomes very, I can feel it when I'm watching him and I'm on stage with him. He's a scallywag. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's a guy who you just can't help but like. It's one of those really beautiful, complex characters that John can bring to life. And is brilliant. My character is known in the show as Big Brother to the little brother, played by Adrian Ensko. The basic, just to give you the sort of rundown of the very small cast of characters, there's only 4 principals, and it's the mate and a captain, played by Wayne Duvall, and then the 2 brothers, and then 4 ensemble members who are there as like sailors, and or that's it. So the relationship between myself and John is one, I am someone who joins the ship right before it leaves port, not a whaler, a farmer, and I'm only there because my little brother is off on an adventure and won't come home, and I'm not gonna leave him alone. So I'm reluctantly on this ship and on this voyage and everywhere that it takes us.
I hear it's so beautifully designed too. Oof. I mean, the pictures that you see are breathtaking.
It's unreal. The set is stunning. Really, I'm in awe of it nightly. It's such every now and then you get gifted like a set that truly becomes a character that becomes a driving force within the story. And Rachel Hawk, our set designer, I mean, what she has done with a small space, we're only in a 300, 400 some seat thrust stage out here in Berkeley Rep. And, she has pulled off some magic tricks with the way that she has designed the show. It's gorgeous. And then you've got Kevin Adams doing the lights, who Stark and I both worked with on American Idiot, and I worked with on Spring Awakening, and he's a genius. And then we've got David Newman doing the choreography. Basically, it's just kind of a best of the best type of scenario where we walked into the rehearsal room and we're just gifted these, dream collaborators.
it's pretty special to have that team, as you know, as well as Kai Harada, who's our sound designer, and Susan Hilferty, who's the costume designer. All of this coming together to do a show out of town. Like, this is a high class production, and you feel it when you walk into the theater. And there are a few reveals in the show, without giving anything away, that are so stunning that this has nothing to do with us, that get regular applause, things that happen in the show that are not related to the performances of the actors at all.
See, that's what's great about live theater. That's what we've missed for all this time, where you can sit there and say, oh, I'm on a ship with these people. And you watch these, theatrical reveals or whatever that these masters create, these creative teams, like you said, your set designer, lighting designer, sound designer, costume designer designs these things. It must feel so great to be performing in front of a live audience again, because this is what we've missed. I mean, what do you remember about that first performance doing Swept Away in front of a live audience that are sitting there, that living, breathing thing between you guys and the audience?
I have chills right now just thinking about it. And the fact that we are back doing this again every night. It's this. I will say that the show is there's a high emotional cost to do this show, for me, for John, for all of us. And it can be difficult to pull yourself up and get ready to go, because it's quite draining. But as soon as the show starts, and as soon as we step out and we're in the light, and you feel that audience, it's fine. It's all worth it.
John.
Yeah, there was this feeling, I've been saying for the last few years, because I'm always filled with uncertainty and, skew, kind of pessimistic over optimistic, where, people would ask me about the show and I'd say, well, I love it. I think it's fantastic, but I don't know if anyone's it's really intense and it's kind of a lot. I don't know if anyone's I don't know if it's going to be people's cup of tea or not, and, that first, preview that we had in Berkeley, all of that went away. I was suddenly kind of free of that doubt and those expectations that I had, kind of put on the show. And I realized I'd been, letting the doubt get the best of me, because the audience was just so eager to get on board with us, to be like, well, okay, we don't care where the story is going, but we're on board. We're going with you, guide us through. And it's intense. It's a lot. Like Stark said, there is an intense emotional cost. And it really is one of those shows where by the end of it, you really feel like you've been through something with your audience. It's like we took this trip together. It's just us out here. I really feel that on this one. It's really special.
And our bows are at ground level. So we are right there among them. We're not up above them. We're not looking down. We are eye level with everybody, and we are 5 feet away from them. So it does feel like it's true. We really did go through something together.
Well, we have to talk about Berkeley Rep, because they pulled this all back together again. I just want to read something about Berkeley Rep. This incredible nonprofit has provided a home to emerging and established artists since 1968. Over 5.5 million people have enjoyed nearly 500 shows. That's a really big number. Talk about the wonderful experience of working at Berkeley Rep. John, you've done it before.
Yeah, this is my second time at the Rep, and under new artistic direction too. We have Joanna Felser now running the Berkeley Repertory Theater, who I've actually known since I was a teenager, because she used to run the Vassar Powerhouse program in the summer theater festival that they did for New York Stage and Film at Vassar College, which was my first job that I ever had as an actor. I was 14 years old, and my parents took me up to Vassar to do one of the 4 or 5 day workshops. And so I've known her forever. And we previewed a rehearsal period of American Idiot there before we went to Berkeley Rep. So there's so much strange kismet full circle stuff on this show, that I'm back at Berkeley Rep with Stark for the first time at Berkeley Rep, with Michael, with Kevin Adams, and now with Felser being there as well. It just feels like home. You know, it really does. It's a fantastic place to create. It really is. You're given so much space, so much artistic freedom, so much encouragement. It really feels like you're all on the same level and you're all in it together. It's a fantastic place to work. I think it's kind of ideal for this show, because this show did require someone that wanted to take a chance, because it's not, you know, totally your average kind of run of the mill musical. And they were ready. They said, absolutely, we don't want to change it. We don't want to water it down or dilute it. Bring all your guns and let's go for it, you know. And they really just let us at it.
It's really, you can feel the history in the space. Once we got into the theater, the hallway that leads from the dressing rooms to the stage is just a whole wall of photos and playbills and pictures of everything all the way back to that back in the 60s. And you can, if you spend a little time looking at it, you can start recognizing faces from year to year, because it was a real repertory place. So you have the same names and faces for decades, and watching them grow as artists. And like John said, you know, Joanna has stuck with this when, I mean, she was so dedicated to this and making sure that we actually did it. And there were times when I felt like John, I was like, is anybody going to want to see a show about mortality and being lonely and being away, blah, 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 right at the end of this act? Is that really what we're going to come back with? And she always had the faith, and she was right.
Well, like I said, you've been extended and extended and extended. That must make you guys just feel so incredible. You know, you both have such wonderful careers working with some of the greatest actors. I just want to mention a few of them for each of you. John, what was it like sharing the stage with Jessica Lange in Long Day's Journey?
Oh, it's very dreamlike. The whole production was surreal, because it's my favorite play ever written. You know, Edmund was a dream role that I had written off. I thought, I'm getting too old and they're probably not going to revive it anytime soon. I'll never get to do it. And then I somehow had the good fortune of being asked to join that company. Jessica's incredible. I mean, she's phenomenal across the board. Whatever medium in which she is working, she is an absolute one of the best. It was hard not to get, you know, and Michael Shannon's, we both had the exact same thing, because we were playing, you know, we were playing her sons, and we both had moments where we came off stage and we're like, God, in some of the scenes where, I remember there was a scene where I kneeled down and took her hands, and it was just us down at the lip of the stage, you know, looking into Jessica Lange's eyes. And it was tricky to remember your next lines when you're, you know, looking into her eyes. It's honestly dreamlike. You know, surreal is the best word that I can conjure. But that was just her role. I mean, she had really wanted to do Mary Tyrone on Broadway. She'd done it in the West End some years back and wanted another crack at it. And you know, she was just stunning in that performance, and a dream to work with. She was lovely.
I think I talked to you a lot during that time period. You told me, I think it was the hardest but most exhilarating role you've ever taken on.
Definitely. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, just the kind of endurance that's required to do a play like that, you know, 4 hours on stage doing, you know, what is arguably the great American, you know, play, was overwhelming and very intense. And the pressure, you know, felt very real to me. But I was on stage with a great company of actors. It was very, very cool.
Yeah. And Stark, for you, I've got to mention Jeff Daniels in To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, what was that like?
That was such a special experience to be a part of that original company and to work with Jeff and to sort of have to go toe to toe with him in the moments that we shared, which is all the courtroom scenes. Yeah. One thing that Jeff and I bonded over was he's a guitar guy, and there were times when we would get to talking about guitars in rehearsal or, you know, on stage during a run through or something. And we would get together in his dressing room and play guitar stuff. And he would teach me like solo stuff, and I would test out songs on him. And it was nice to have the sort of like the show relationship, which was kind of tense, and then the sort of friendship that happened off stage. And I've continued to email with him over the years and check in, and he always is really responsive, and it was a great experience working with him.
You know, one of my final questions for both of you are, you know, what was that defining moment for each of you when you said, I have to be an actor and try to make a living at this?
What's coming to my mind is honestly probably just the first time I ever was on stage. I was 12 years old doing community theater in Wilmington, Delaware. And it sounds a little silly to kind of say, even at that young age, that I just had this feeling of I have to chase this for all it's worth. I don't want any half measures. I want to go for this. And I was lucky enough that I had supportive parents, that enabled that. But I knew from a very young age that I wanted to, try to go all the way with it if I could.
Beautiful.
I think,
yeah. Community theater is really important because you think it's like Broadway. I mean, when you see lights come at you, even that stage, and you see an audience, it's the same thing. It's just they pay less money for a ticket or something.
Right, exactly.
Just thinking about it and wondering what that moment was for me, I have to say I think it was the same the first time. My first production was as a sophomore in high school, and I did The Sound of Music, and I played one of the Von Trapp boys. I was Kurt, the littlest, and I only did it because it was fun, so I was about 15 years old, and I did it because it was like, an elective that I chose in high school. You have to take theater, or, an arts elective, and I chose theater as a class, and it was really fun. And then I decided to audition for the musical, and then I got a part in the musical, and then it was stepping out in front of the audience and hitting and feeling those footlights and just going, oh, it's not just fun in class. It's pretty awesome on stage. And as nervous as I was before, all those butterflies, they just went away when I got out there. And I just have to say that, like, the fact that I'm still doing this and I'm getting paid to do it and I'm able to make a living doing it, we're so lucky. I get to have fun at work. And even if it costs something like we've been talking about, it's still so satisfying. And yeah, that must have been it. It's just, and John and I are the lucky ones, because I'm sure there were a lot of other kids on stage with me that thought, oh, I want to do this too. And it just doesn't, so much luck goes into it.
Yeah.
No, because it's what Tommy Tune told me a long time ago. He said, it doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's just that, there's just bigger money spent on shows when you get into, like, out of community theater, but the experience is the same, It's all the same for all of you. So I just love that. So one of my final question for both of you is, you're introducing a lot of people to theater for the very first time with the Avett brothers, who are coming to see, like, oh my God, I love this band. Now they've got this, like, show, and you're introducing them to, like, oh, this is what live theater is, what that means to both of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that again, I know I'm using the word a lot, but it just feels like such a gift, because it's an art form that, obviously has been around forever, but it only survives because of the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. That's the only reason why it keeps going the way that it does. And if we've seen anything in the last few years, it's that, we always need, we need people coming from all over to sit in theaters and share these stories with each other. And so the fact that we are having people, showing up in Berkeley saying, wow, I've never seen a musical before, but I've seen 20 Avett Brothers shows and I just love their music, so I want to see what this musical is all about. And then they sit down and buy a ticket and take this rather extreme, unpredictable, intense journey with us, and they're hooked, by the end of it. It's just so cool. I remember my first shows when I was young, going to see plays and going to see musicals, and what a difference that made for me. And so to be up there on stage some nights and think, wow, there's a chance that I might actually be part of something that is providing someone with a similar experience is it's just really cool, really, really fortunate to be able to be part of that communion, which is what it is.
I feel, and I've been thinking about this, and up until the point when we're doing it, and now it's been reinforced. is that it cuts both ways. So we have these people who are Avett Brothers fans who are coming to see this show because that's what they care about. And it's an opportunity to hear the music they love. And they're being introduced to theater, and it's changing them. And you can see it outside. There's a handful of people that stick around outside to say hi, and they will tell us, like, I've never seen, this is my first musical, but I'll be back and I'm bringing my friends. And then there's your theater people who don't know the Avett Brothers at all because they're not a Green Day. You know what I mean? They're not an absolute worldwide sensation. They're a grassroots thing. The people who love them love them. They don't have a lot of radio play. It's kind of a perfect match so that there really are two separate groups, and they get to experience it together. And those Avett fans are there leaning in and excited and so happy, and they're clapping along, and they give permission to the theater folks who might not be quite as outgoing typically to do the same thing. And it really is a perfect blend. So I'm just so grateful to both parties for sharing this experience with us.
Yeah, well said.
I love that. I just love when people who normally wouldn't go to a show and like, oh my God, this is what live theater is all about. It changes. Like I said, it all mixes and matches together. Like you said, Stark, really great. Well, once again, Swept Away is playing at Berkeley Rep until March 6th and features a stellar cast led by John Gallagher Jr. and Stark Sands. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
I have known the two of you since your debuts. I remember being with John in a rehearsal room for Spring Awakening. You guys were so green and so young. I don't think you ever did interviews. I think I was like your first interview.
I think so.
And then Stark, yours too. I love the journey you've both been on together with everything, with all the film roles and TV roles you do, but you always come back to the theater. And I love that with the both of you.
Well, we love you too, Richard. Thank you for being such a constant in our careers.
Well, I miss you guys. I know you're in the Berkeley dorms. Listen, our internet held up really nice. Have an incredible time. And I cannot wait to see the two of you when we're back in New York. Everybody stay safe. And for all your theater coverage, look at Broadway World. And if you're out at Berkeley Rep, go see Swept Away. Take care, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.